Animals really are something special. Every single morning, this bald eagle flies over to visit his best friend, a cat. But one morning, something unexpected happened. Annie heard a loud, sharp sound right outside her door. It was the cry of an eagle. Her heart jumped. She rushed out, panic rising fast. Her rescue cat was outside, and with all the wildlife around their home, she always worried. It wasn't just a vague concern. She knew exactly what could happen. She'd already lived through it once. A few years back, Annie had driven to the tiny grocery store in her quiet, forest-lined village. This place was small, one store, one doctor, and not much else. No vet, no dry cleaner, not even a dentist. Annie worked as a copywriter, which meant she could live anywhere. So she chose this little cabin tucked deep in the woods. It was peaceful, the kind of peace you felt in your bones. But out here, that peace came with its risks. Back at the store that day, an elderly woman came in holding a basket. She spotted Annie and made a beeline toward her. Everyone in town knew Annie. She'd grown up here, and after her parents passed the cabin down to her, she never left. Folks also knew she had a soft spot for animals and had taken a few online vet courses to care for her own. After all, when her dog was attacked by an eagle and there was no vet to help, she watched him pass away, helpless. She never wanted to go through that again. When the older woman reached her, she opened the basket. Inside were two of the tiniest kittens Annie had ever seen. Their mother had been taken by a fox, and now they were all alone. The woman, heartbroken over her lost cat, simply didn't have the strength to care for two newborns. They'd need constant feeding and attention. She loved them enough to want better for them, and Annie was the first person she thought of. At first, Annie hesitated. She knew herself too well. She'd get attached. And there were no promises. These kittens might not make it. But just then, the black and white one gave a little yawn. It was the kind of small, perfect thing that breaks your heart wide open. Annie couldn't say no. She got everything they'd need, kitten formula, a baby bottle, and prepared to feed them every couple of hours, round the clock. They were so tiny. But she had to try. Animals really are amazing. Every morning, this bald eagle swoops down to visit his cat best friend. But then one morning, something unexpected happened. Annie was inside when she suddenly heard a piercing cry outside. It was the sharp scream of an eagle. Her stomach dropped. She ran out the door in a panic. Her rescue cat was out there, and the wildlife around their house always made her uneasy. She'd always been aware of the risks, especially after what had happened before. In moments like this, Panda could probably have hurt the eagle if she wanted to. She was bigger and definitely had the advantage. But she didn't. Instead, she just lay there quietly beside him. After a while, she even scooted a little closer, and the eagle nestled right up next to her. It was incredible to witness. The bird kept glancing up at the sky now and then, maybe looking out for his parents. But the sky was clear and calm, and Panda didn't seem worried at all. Annie had thought about stepping in to help, but it was clear Panda had it all under control. She hopped down near her food and water bowl, where there was still a bit of kibble left. It was almost like she was offering to share with the eagle. He carefully hopped off the porch railing and went straight for the water. For nearly an hour, the cat and the eagle just sat there together in peace. Even when Lucky wandered out to lie in the sun, the eagle didn't flinch. Lucky didn't pay much attention to the bird. He was far less interested than his sister. Panda was the one truly connecting with him. Then, after a bit, the eagle began flapping his wings. He'd had time to rest, and now it looked like he was ready to go. He struggled a little at first, but then he lifted off and flew into the trees. Annie stood there in awe. She honestly couldn't believe what she had just seen. It felt like a once-in-a-lifetime moment. The next morning, the eagle came back. The second panda spotted him on the porch. She wanted out. She ran straight over to him like they were old friends. And that's exactly what they became. Day by day, the eagle grew stronger, but his visits didn't stop. He kept coming to see Panda, and he was never aggressive or nervous. It was amazing. But things were about to get even stranger. One morning, Panda was pacing at Annie's feet, letting out soft moans that wouldn't stop. It was unusual, Lucky was usually the one always meowing and begging for attention. Annie tried picking Panda up to calm her down, but she squirmed away. It was like she wanted Annie to follow her. So Annie got up and followed. Panda darted off the porch and for the first time ever ran into the woods. Annie chased after her, worried she might get too far, but then noticed that Panda wasn't running aimlessly. She was leading her. They stopped at a tree, and there, stuck in a low branch, was a bald eagle. Its wing was tangled, and it looked hurt. Annie immediately guessed this must be Panda's friend, and he was in trouble. Annie ran back to the house, grabbing gloves, a blanket, and a stepladder. She climbed up carefully, gently wrapped the bird in the blanket, and worked to free the wing from the branches. Once he was loose, she carried him back to the house. She wrapped his wing, gave him water and fresh meat, and placed him in a large crate so he could rest. He didn't panic. Maybe it helped that he already knew Annie and trusted her. Once he was settled, she stepped outside to check on Panda and Lucky. And that's when she froze. Both cats were sitting on the porch, and right beside them was the eagle. Panda's eagle friend wasn't in the crate anymore. He was back outside, sitting calmly with his two favorite cats. That could only mean one thing. The eagle Annie had rescued wasn't Panda's friend at all. He was a completely different bird. Still, he never once tried to hurt her. He could have easily done damage. His beak and claws were sharp, but he didn't. Somehow he seemed to understand that she was trying to help. Annie took care of the injured eagle every day, and as his wing healed, he got stronger. The cats were in and out of the house like always, and the eagle got used to having them around. Each morning, Annie placed the cage outside so he could watch the world, and especially so he could see the other eagle when he came by to visit. Eventually, it was time. The eagle was stronger now, and Annie knew he was ready to be free. She brought the crate out to the porch and slowly opened the door. The eagle stepped out carefully, then stretched out his huge wings. He gave them a few strong flaps, and then he was airborne. It was a powerful moment. Watching him soar brought Annie to tears. But the next morning brought an even bigger surprise. Both eagles showed up, side by side. Annie could hardly believe it. Panda, of course, went straight to her old friend, and the two cuddled up like they always did. But now all four of them, the two eagles and the two cats, spent time together. Every morning this bald eagle still came to visit his cat best friend. But one day something happened that broke the calm routine. Annie looked out the window and saw them all snoozing together in the morning sun. Panda was curled up next to her eagle buddy, and everything looked peaceful. So Annie went back inside to get some work done. About an hour later, the quiet was shattered by loud screeches. The eagles were screaming, and the cats were yowling. Annie rushed to the window, heart pounding. One of the eagles was diving down toward something. Was he attacking? Had something gone wrong between the animals? Without thinking, Annie grabbed the closest thing she could use to defend the cats, an umbrella, and ran outside. But when she got to the porch, she realized what was really going on. The cats were fine. They sat near the doorway, alert but unharmed. The eagle wasn't going after them. He was attacking something near the trees. Annie looked closer and spotted a young red fox hiding under some bushes. The eagle kept swooping down, clearly trying to chase it away. It wasn't an attack. It was protection. The eagles were guarding their cat friends. The little fox was curled up, his face buried in the grass. He didn't look like a threat. In fact, he looked terrified. Annie wasn't scared of the eagles. She knew they wouldn't hurt her. She gently waved them off and walked toward the bushes. What she found broke her heart. The fox wasn't just scared. He was hurt. He was just a baby, and there was a deep wound on his side, like he'd been gored by a deer or moose. It looked painful and fresh. Annie knew foxes could be dangerous to cats, but in that moment it didn't matter. She couldn't just walk away from an animal in pain. If there was even a small chance she could help him, Annie was going to try. She grabbed the large crate and a soft blanket, gently wrapped the little fox, and brought him back to the house. Once there, she gave him a mild sedative to help him rest, then carefully cleaned out the wound and stitched it up. She could only hope it hadn't hit anything vital. No matter what, she was going to give this fox his best shot. The next few days were tough. The fox got worse before he got better. He came down with a fever, and Annie stayed by his side all night, sponging him down and doing whatever she could to ease the pain. It was hard to watch. Panda never left her side either. At one point, the little cat even curled up next to the fox, like she was trying to comfort him. That was just who Panda was: gentle, nurturing, always looking out for others. Somehow, animals always seemed to trust her. By morning, the fox started to improve. He was still weak, but he was stable. He slept for hours in the crate, and when he woke up, Annie gave him food. Just like she'd done with the eagle, she placed his crate outside each morning so he could get used to the other animals, especially the eagles. She didn't want to keep him as a pet. Her goal was simple: help him heal, then let him go. And hopefully, by letting all the animals get familiar with each other, they might be more tolerant if their paths ever crossed again in the wild. She cared for the fox for several more weeks. Slowly, he got stronger, and the wound healed. When the time was right, Annie took him far out into the forest and let him go. He paused for just a moment, then darted off into the trees. He was healthy. He had a second chance. Back at home, everything settled again. The eagles kept up their visits, and the cats, especially Panda, lived a spoiled, happy life. Then, one morning, Annie glanced out the window and stopped in her tracks. On the porch, along with the 2 cats and the 2 eagles, was the red fox. He wasn't hurt. He wasn't scared. He was just lying there calmly, as if he belonged. And maybe, in a way, he did. All the animals were relaxed, just enjoying the morning together. It was one of the most beautiful things Annie had ever seen. Over the years, Panda would bring more injured and lost animals to Annie, and every time they did what they could to help. They were a team, one little cat with a big heart, and a woman who believed in giving animals a chance. Thanks to that compassion, they got to be part of some truly magical moments. Would you take on newborn or injured animals? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartwarming animal tales. See you next time.